Hello and welcome to Play Paul's Turn. In this podcast we discuss all things to do with TV, films, games and literature. We give our thoughts on the media we've been enjoying, old or new, and comment on anything topical. Now today we are going to be talking about video games. Yay! And I am joined, my name is John, hello, and I am joined by Alex. And as per usual, Alex has just sent me lots of smiley emojis, which means he's very happy about the subject too. That's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to ask Alex our usual icebreaker question, which gives you a little bit of insight into the hosts' lives. And here is the question, Alex. Okay, to do with gaming, if your life had an open beta, or if you're in America, beta, which part of it would you make available to the public?
Good question. I was thinking about this, and so I can't remember which GTA it was. I think it was GTA 4, where you could go to the gym and you could work out. But I feel like that part of my life, if I could get someone else to control that, that would be really helpful, because it's a lot easier for them to mash the keys than it is me to do some press ups or sort of pull downs or stuff like that. So if I could get them to do that bit for me, I think that would be very helpful. So anyway, that was my suggestion. My wife had a choice as well, and she said, could we do it so that Alex goes on his Brompton and everyone plays it like Playboy, Paperboy?
Playboy?
Not Playboy. like Paperboy, where they have to control me on my Brompton. Yeah. And I think that
you have to throw a newspaper around as well.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds more fun, to be fair, but less helpful for me. I mean, I guess that's exercise, so I don't mind.
But I get this image of people working out for you. It's a bit like those sort of the big sweatshops in the East that grind people's levels for them for a fee.
Yeah. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, I need to find some people to do that for me for a few games.
Yeah. Okay. So I think on a similar theme, I think the beta of my life, any sort of vertical slice of my life as a game, would be basically any part of my life in the 20s. So I'd play it myself so I could actually remember what I did. Because I kind of went off the rails a bit in the 20s, sort of between school and university and work. And
nice.
It'd be great. I think there's probably a game. I think there's a game in Wreck-It Ralph, isn't there? Where they go into this bar and they have to
tappers.
Beers on the tappers. I think basically that's my life in the 20s. And so that's what my demo would be more than anything else. Okay. So, gaming, baby. We're going to return to the topic of gaming. We haven't talked much about gaming in the last few weeks, have we? Really?
No.
But there's been a few new things out, both physical and digital, that we'd like to talk to. So let's start off, Alex. What have you been playing?
So I've been playing a few games. I've not been playing a lot of games recently, but I have been playing a few. The main one I've been playing on the PS5 is Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm really enjoying.
Is that a PS5 version of it?
Well, I can't really tell. I guess it's not.
PS4.
I guess it's the PS4 version. I barely... There's like a little badge, isn't there, on PS5 to tell you which... So I think it's a PS5 version, but I don't think they... I mean, I paid for it, so I guess I have a physical copy, but I guess it would only be PS4 because they didn't do a PS5 version of that one.
Well, they're too busy on the new one, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but even so, it still looks stunning, and it's really a really good game to play. I found it very challenging to start off with because you die quite a lot, and you try and pick fights with some of the machines and you don't win. So then what I did is I looked up how to get the Shield Weaver armor. And I thought, look, let's give myself a fighting chance, because otherwise I'd have to play it on like story level, which would be so embarrassing. So I was like, no.
Oh, right. So, it does have difficulty settings, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you've got a level, but I think I played it on the normal setting. I think it's medium or standard whatever the normal is. But I just put myself down to story would just be too far. So I've got the Shield Weaver armor and I've activated all of the tool necks, apart from the Frozen Wild one, which is quite scary.
That's the DLC.
That's the DLC, yeah. So and
is that the bird, the flying one?
No, the tall necks are the like big giraffes.
Yeah, the things that go around like brontosauruses.
They're like giraffes basically because they've got big legs and the flat tops. Yeah, that's it.
Flat heads. Yeah.
So and then once you've done that, you can see all of the area. So then you can kind of make sense of how big the area is and what there is to do.
That's like Ubisoft's tower system.
Yes, yeah. It's exactly the same as what I did with Assassin's Creed. Is first thing I do when I get into a new area is go, right, where's the tower? Right, okay, I know I'm not really leveled up for this yet, but I'm going to try and get to the tower and do that bit first, because then at least I've got a good chance of knowing where I've got to get to and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I tend to play it. So I am enjoying it, but I'm at the kind of grindy place now where I've got to do lots of missions.
Crafting missions, aren't they? Really?
Gear. Yeah. There's lots of missions for gear, and also if you can move the story along, but I still don't feel like I've got high enough levels, so I'm kind of trying to level up a bit to try and give myself a better chance. I thought I would fight. I think it's one of the big hawk, not for hawks, but big pterodactyl things that comes in. And I got thoroughly killed on that. So then I was like, right, I'm not going to do that yet.
There's a weapon where you can attach like ropes to the creatures and tie them down. And I think that's really good for the birds, the flying things in the game. Yeah, I need to try to get better at things like that. It's a really good game. I think I just don't have a lot of time for a long period. You've got to play a certain amount of time to get that intuitive lock on. Yes. Where you can just kind of do things without thinking. That's right. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah. So it's an excellent game. It's one of about 3 games, I think, maybe 4 that I've ever platinumed. Oh, right. Oh, that's good. And it's one of my favourite stories of any game I've ever played. I don't think you've got to that stage there where it sort of the impact kicks in and what the story is. It's a very clever story. Yeah, I've got some of the way through it. Not all of the way through it. And I think it's just interesting in that it makes me want to find out more about the world and her place in it and everything. So it's kind of that is really well written. So I am enjoying that. We're going to talk about later on about the games we're looking forward to, and obviously the sequel to that game's coming up. And I think it's going to be nice for you actually to play through almost continuously between the 2 games. Yeah, I think so. You'll pick it up quite quickly. Whereas I haven't played it for a while. It's one of my favourite all-time games, and I just think it's got such a good balance between. Some open world games can be a bit onerous with the grind. I gave up after about 30 hours of Valhalla, and I've still got about 70 hours left. Yeah. I will go back to it eventually because that is a lovely game too. But I think Horizon Zero Dawn is pitched at the older gamer with a bit less time. It's not a sort of a lifetime commitment like some games are. Yeah, true. What else have you been playing, Alex? So that's my only PS5 game I've been playing actually. Then I'm going to Xbox Series X, and then there's a few that I've been dipping in and out of. One of which was 12 Minutes. Now, 12 Minutes is a really interesting one. The thing is, it's well acted. It's got James McAvoy and Daisy Reed in it. Daisy Ridley, that's right. And they are a couple in a apartment, and what you have to do is basically you're in a time loop, but what happens is you get interrupted. You get interrupted in your evening by a cop who ends up taking you and killing you. And you don't know why, and you don't know what the background is behind it, and you can ask only scripted questions to each other, and it's like a little bit of a point and click adventure really. And the thing is, you only have 12 minutes, and then the loop it goes. So you maybe you die, or something goes wrong, but either way you wake up and it's just at the start of the 12 minutes again, and you've got to do it all over again. And I found it quite interesting to start with, but it got really grindy in the middle. And I think the problem is it's because of the time limit, you end up having to kind of do something and then just burn that attempt and go back again to learn and remember. Yeah, you have to kind of go and find out something and then say, right, I'm done with that. Right, I'm going to just go and get myself killed or whatever.
And so for me, it found very grindy. And the other part of it was the puzzles are not massively intuitive. So you end up knowing that something will come in later, but you're not quite sure how you're going to do it. And because you haven't asked the right questions yet, you wouldn't be able to activate it anyway. And so you get to a point later in the game where you can activate it and you go, brilliant, now I can do this thing. But I found that quite grindy because I think I prefer a bit more of a linear adventure. And obviously this isn't. So anyway, that's 12 minutes.
Time loop games seem to be a bit of a zeitgeist at the moment, don't they?
Yes. So there's a lot of people doing them at the moment.
The third, at least, I think that's been out recently.
Yeah, it's 12 minutes. I mean, I got it because it was on Game Pass, so I didn't need to think about buying it, which was good. And I think most of my Xbox purchases at the moment are Xbox Game Pass, downloads. So the next one that I have is actually quite a charming game on Xbox, a game which is called Sable.
Oh, so I haven't got around to playing this yet, but I'm going to. Because it reminds me of Jean-Giraud Moebius's artwork. I'm a big fan of his. There's a couple of books he did as an advert for Citroen.
Yeah.
Which is it Once Upon a Star or Wish Upon a Star books?
I'm not sure, but yeah,
I'll have to look it up. I've got lots of Moebius's artwork. I'm a big fan. Tell me about it. It looks amazing.
So basically, you are a teen in a desert world. And you have a tribe, and you start in a temple. So there's clearly some religious or some sort of rituals that you need to do. There is a rite of passage. So essentially, you come of age, and then you basically go gliding around the deserts. And it's and the tribe that you're part of is a nomadic tribe. So they sometimes move along and things like that. So it's kind of really a rite of passage for this teen to explore this sort of really quite interesting desert environment. I'd say the art house, the style of it is graphically is really lovely to look at. And then the puzzles aren't particularly challenging, but they are interesting enough. And I think that it's kind of got enough story behind it. But because it's a bit open world, you can really take things how you want. You've got missions to do, but if you just want to go exploring, you can go exploring on this contraption that you build and stuff like that. So I really enjoy it.
One of the sparrows from Destiny, those little floaty bikes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's what I like about it is I don't have to think too hard. It's quite calming and relaxing, which is good. And, sometimes you need something like that, particularly if you're playing like Zero Dawn, for example, where it's not that it's hard, but you're also going, I've got to be really quiet, and it's tense sometimes. Whereas I don't have that problem with Sable. It's just really nice, and if things happen, it'll be okay. And I can't like fall to my death or anything because they don't let you do that. Which is nice, and so I was like, good. So it's really calming game for me to play.
It's a meditation game almost by the sound of it, like a sort of a kind of a mellow.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Us2 company did Flower, and they did another one.
There's the one with the
Journey.
They
did Journey.
Journey, yeah. Yes, with all the sand, I guess it's like Journey and
yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit like that, except it's all in a desert.
That wasn't Us2 though. That was
it us?
That game company.
That game company. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
The game company, I think.
But it just reminded me a bit of that, and I was like, yes, I need that, so that's good. And then aside from that, I'm trying to replay through Tomb Raider now that it's
Which one?
So I've started the first one, but I'm getting bored of it already because it's not a great iteration. So I may just skip to Shadow.
Sorry, the very, very first one.
Oh, no. This is from the reboots. So this is the. I think it was 2013 was the original Tomb Raider, and then you had Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I may just skip to Shadow because Shadow's the last one, I think. I think it is. I can't quite remember.
I've played the other two, and I started Shadow, the most recent one.
Yeah, I think so.
Rise.
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh lordy! I started it on Xbox Game Pass, and then came off Game Pass for a while, so I'll have to go back to it at some point.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the thing is, it's graphically it looks great, and I think, yeah, that's the latest one, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, graphically it looks great, and the gameplay is quite nice. And I've already played through all the Uncharted's now that I've got the PlayStation again. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted something that was quite similar to that, and so that's why I gave it a go. So it's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I went back onto Game Pass recently. I do have an Xbox One, but it's not even plugged in. I tend to use xCloud now on my Mac.
All right.
And so I tend to play games that are a bit more sort of indie games that don't require as much bandwidth, because even though I have a super fast connection here, I think it's more to do with the capabilities of Safari on my Mac to how it crunches the data.
Yeah.
But I've had a little go at Superliminal on Game Pass,
Okay.
which is really cool, and I'd really recommend it. It reminded me of the Stanley Parable. So it's all to do with the optical illusions and how you work your way out of rooms. It's a sort of walking through a room game, but the solutions are a bit like those games. Sometimes you get that, like if you walk into a room and there's separate bits, and you stand in one corner and those separate bits coalesce into a shape.
Oh right, yeah.
From that perspective, and then you can climb on that shape. So it's all based around that. It's really clever, and I think it's quite an underrated game. But yes, I probably will play Sable next on the xCloud.
It's worth a go.
Say again.
It's
Sorry?
worth a go for sure.
Yeah. Going back to loops, I've been playing Deathloop, and what a game! I mean, I've kind of on a hiatus from playing it with other things going on, but I'm going to go back to it. But it is an amazing game, and when you were talking about 12 minutes, it made me think about Deathloop, because I think Deathloop's done the whole time loop theme really well. Because it doesn't feel like you're grinding even when you are repeating things, because you just feel like you're super powerful when you come back to it. It's got real charm in terms of its characters. I think the acting in it is fantastic. And actually it's quite a simple game, because you've got eight sort of main antagonists, and 9 really, if you include the lady. And your main character, Colt, is again stuck in a time loop in this weird world where it's kind of like this island with this amazing sort of 60s theme vibe, but sort of modern at the same time, sort of a retro modern look. And you have got to kill certain of these antagonists called visionaries,
Right.
but you've got to kill all of them in one day to escape the loop. And there are 4 sections to the island where these visionaries are, and the kind of the narrative takes you through and sort of holds your hand for a while, so you understand the idea of it all, and then it kind of leads you to it. And every section of the island you can visit in the morning, midday, afternoon, and evening, and certain things happen at certain times. So you can kind of skip the morning and jump to the afternoon if you want to.
Okay.
But the temptation is not to do that, because you can earn the usual sort of in-game economical residuum, which lets you sort of unlock and hold on to items. So, yeah, I mean, it's when you first enter it, it's a bit of a monumental task. You think, how am I going to do this? And I've got a little notebook I now have next to me to jot down things I've done to remember, because I think at the end of it, you're going to have to string along all these little techniques to kill all the visionaries.
Oh, I see. Right.
Because I can kill 1 or 2 in one whole 24-hour loop. But as you go through and do this, and it is a grind, but it's not a grind because it's so much fun. And they've developed the AI in the NPCs so that they're not stupid, but they're not massively clever as well. And so you do feel kind of super powered whilst playing it. And yeah, I think it's going to be a while before I finish it, but I'm really enjoying the emerging narrative, because you kind of most of the narrative is this conversation between you and Juliana, who's the main antagonist.
Oh, right.
Kind of, she's taking you through it, but she's arguing with you the whole time.
Okay.
If that makes sense, and sort of things start to unfold. What's really interesting about it is I mean, it looks amazing. It's Arcane Games at their best, really. They did Death of the Insider and those lovely Dishonored, some amazing games I've loved. I love those games. And I love the style of play where it can be stealth or it can be, shooty.
Mm-hmm.
And you unlock these powers that are very similar to the powers from Dishonored, the shift where you can sort of teleport and where you can sort of knock people back like a force push from Star Wars. But they're not so powerful that you can get away with it the whole time, if that makes sense.
That's
you
good.
have to kind of be really, you have to balance your energy usage, which is really cool. But what's really cool is you can play as Colt, and then if you fancy just a change, you can jump in as Juliana online,
right,
and infiltrate other people's single-player games.
Oh, I see. Right,
Which is a bit like Demon Souls and the Dark Souls games. And I've discovered, and also people jump into my game as well.
right.
And you can set it so you're online or you're offline, but for some reason when I set it to offline, people still jump into my game, so I can't really escape it at all. It happens all the time. But I've got to that point now where I've got so many good weapons and powers that when they do jump in, I could completely take them out.
Oh, right.
And when they die, they drop all of the items they had in that loop.
Oh, okay.
So quite a lot of the powers I've not gained from the visionaries, because each visionary has a different power you have to kind of use. I've gained them from these people coming into my game and trying to take me out. I'm not doing very well.
It's
really cool.
Does it break the narrative though? So like if you have someone else come in, is it like, oh, that's clearly someone online?
Well, I mean, it's Juliana comes in,
Right.
And it's someone online because it says Juliana is hunting you.
Oh, okay.
There's a little red sort of box, so it's someone online. But it kind of fits the story because she is the one you're against. Really, you're trying to assassinate her and her friends. But you do get that kind of that sudden sort of tense feeling of, oh my god, this is a real person, and you can kind of you've got to go down to and hack this radio signal because when she comes in, your exit from the level gets blocked. You can't get out.
Right.
You can't escape. So it's this clever kind of interplay of, do I just wait it out and try and shoot her and take her out beforehand, or do I go down to this radio mast you have to hack to unlock the tunnels?
I see.
But she knows I'm going there.
Right, I see. Yeah, so she's going to be looking.
Clever
at
kind of. There's no time limit in each zone.
Okay.
So it's the day's frozen essentially. If that makes sense.
Yep.
So you can spend as long as you want. Whereas 12 minutes, I presume you felt quite rushed about getting everything done.
Yes.
Time limit.
Yeah. That was the constraint. Was you very much were like, well, this is now going to this is going to happen in 2 minutes. This in 10 seconds. This is going to happen in 15. Yeah. It was very tight. But yeah, it sounds nice that you can just spend time exploring.
Well, there's little hidden things, I wouldn't say missions, but little hidden kind of extra things you can do around the world. In one of the areas, there's this really cool kind of. It's funny. It's a room inside a building. You can explore all the rooms,
right.
And it's like a. What's it like? It's a bit like in Big, the machine that turns. It's a machine like that, but not to turn you big, obviously. But it asks you some questions about the lore of the world, about all the vision.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because the front of it is all wooden. You go around the back, you can see all the machinery like it's been built by hand. But if you can answer all the questions, something cool's going to happen.
Right, I see.
But around the world are like you can pick up messages and pieces of paper, and these are all clues to the questions.
Right.
So it's kind of a meta game within the game.
Nice.
And it doesn't really spoil the story, so you can do it in any order. But it's kind of giving you more information about the visionaries, and that's really cool. And you get, the usual thing that you can go onto these sort of old Apple II style computers, and there's like an old forum or message board where the visionaries all chat, and that gives you more lore. But it's all very much down to you to explore, and I kind of don't want to finish it.
Right.
I want to keep going and just explore the world and enjoy it. So yes, now the question is it going to come to Xbox? It's a Bethesda game, so I think it has been confirmed.
It's due to come,
exclusive,
but it won't come for at least 12 months. So, so you have it, or PS5 have it, and PS has it until
it's PC
until the end of next year, basically, and then it will come out for holiday season 2022.
Yeah.
Which for me is a bit of, so I could get it now because I have a PlayStation, so I could do that. or should I
on
wait?
Games Pass,
Because
Game
it'll
Pass.
probably go on Games Pass because it's Bethesda and now Microsoft. So that would
Almost certainly
it will.
will.
And the thing is also because they know that it's coming later, they will put it on day one on Xbox because they'll be like, that's how it's worth. Games Pass is worth it. So they're queuing that up for next year.
It's worth waiting, and you won't miss out on the invaders because you'll have a whole bunch of other people on Xbox Game Pass playing it and wanting to invade each other's games. So, yeah, the only thing that would put me off is playing it late and not having anyone else jumping in because that's quite a cool aspect of the game and kind of a good shortcut to some of the powers.
Nice.
Really enjoying it. So the other couple of things I've been doing, which aren't full games, but I have recently joined an online clan, and I'm 47 years old and I'm joining gaming clans. But for me, what I miss about gaming is gaming with other people because not many people in my life are gamers.
Right, I see.
At my age, a lot of people still at my age sort of see gaming as a kid's thing. But it's been brilliant for me over lockdown to sort of relieve tension and sort of stress.
Yeah.
So I've joined this group called the Old Age Pensioners, or Old Age PlayStationers, OAPs.
Nice.
And they're a really good community, and they've kind of got me spending a lot of money because they're basically Call of Duty fans.
Right.
But they play Call of Duty, all the classics, all the old ones on separate nights. So it's a retro Call of Duty all the way up to the modern ones.
Uh-huh.
So they've got all the old games. So I have, because obviously there've been some recent betas out for the Call of Duty franchise, I have pre-ordered Call of Duty Vanguard. Now I know a lot of people think pre-ordering is a silly idea,
Right.
But I have really enjoyed Black Ops Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
For me it's a jump in, stress relief, play 15, 20 minutes, jump out. So I pre-ordered it so I could play the beta, and the Vanguard beta is set in, it's another World War II game.
Right.
And the levels that you got in the multiplayer beta were the Eagle's Nest, which is Hitler's house, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this hotel in Paris, which is a sort of hotel top, with Paris being blown up and the Eiffel Tower on fire.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rooftop in Amsterdam, which is really cool. I'm just trying to think. And then there's this much larger map, which is set in sort of a Russian sort of city covered in snow. With a big sort of square and all the Russian propaganda around you. And the big change with this is the system where you can set how hectic the game is. So you can decide how many people you want to be in a match.
Okay.
And it scales up the hecticness. So you can have 6v6 all the way up to 12v12. I think even in some games even higher than that.
All right.
And that really it's called blitz mode when there's lots of people around. It changes the dynamic of the game. So people who are a bit less inclined to have these sort of everything going on at once can play the more tactical, play the objective games, and the larger games which are chaos. If you like that sort of fun. And it's a really clever idea. And I think the beta was just testing how that scaled up and scaled down. If you're a Call of Duty fan, it's all about the guns. The guns are interesting. They're quite different to the modern ones. The leveling system's a little bit different. I don't know how they're going to add in all the crazy skins that they have in the Call of Duty games as well, because I'm currently playing as Judge Dredd in Black Ops. The Judge Dredd skin, and I'm not sure how Judge Dredd will fit into World War II. Perhaps they might even put in like 1940s Captain America or something into the game. I don't know, but
cool.
Which would be quite cool. But I've been really enjoying that, and it's been a very, very smooth beta. So it's polished. You wouldn't really know it was essentially an early build.
That's nice.
The other beta I've been playing is, and this has been more recently, in fact it finished this morning at 8 a.m, was the Battlefield 2042 beta.
Okay.
And again, I've pre-ordered that as well. So, I don't know where I'm going to get the time to play all these, to be honest. But,
yeah.
The beauty of these sort of games are, because they're less, there are single players with both of these, I understand, which I may get around to eventually, but I'm really joining them for the multiplayer.
Okay, well, that's
which
fair.
is quite a big ask if you're paying £70 for a multiplayer game, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
If you're thinking about buying it, it's a lot of money. The Battlefield 2042 beta is very ambitious. So it's the only thing you could do in the beta was this large, very, very large map, which is a bit like Warzone in Call of Duty, but about 5 times larger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same sort of battlefield, kind of lots going on, vehicles, a lot of scalability. I'm waving my arms around and hitting the microphone. Sorry, a lot of height to the game. You've got zip lines up to towers, but the actual map itself evolved. Remember they used to call it Levolution.
Oh right,
One of these sort of dev buzzwords
Yeah.
from E3 a few years back. So in game, there you're in this base called Orbital, which is this kind of military base that has a space rocket and lots of sort of buildings and there's a big tower block, and the game is Conquest, and you've got to go and essentially take certain zones, take control of them. But the zones link together like a sort of a game of Risk.
I see. Yeah.
So you've got this map, and if you take a certain number of zones next to each other, then you own that map goes red.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite tactical, and you get rewarded points-wise by playing to objective rather than killing people.
Nice. Okay.
So it's a bit more of a grown-ups game in that respect.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the younger players like to just go around and shoot people. This is much more tactical. But it's also like Far Cry has a lot of emergent gameplay. So last night we were all driving around in Jeeps, sort of vehicles. And then, it was about 8 of us driving around in sort of 2 or 3 vehicles. And in the middle of the map, this massive twister tornado appeared.
Nice.
And as it goes across the map, it rips up the trees and it damages buildings, and so the whole map changes.
Right. Yeah.
So we thought it'd be hilarious to drive into the tornado. So you can imagine all of us all on the mic driving into the tornado, and the whole car just spins in space, and the whole thing, we're all just spinning around, and it's chaos, and there's bits flying everywhere, and you get flung out eventually, and after the tornado and die.
Yeah.
But obviously, as it goes past the rocket, which if you wait long enough in some games, the rocket takes off as well.
Oh right. Cool.
If it spins past the rocket, the whole area gets trashed, all the gantry gets knocked down. And I've seen people also grapple hook onto the rocket as it's taking off and go up with it. So it's obviously been designed a little bit for the Twitch generation where you can have these cool moments.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. However, we have found over the last 3 or 4 days that it's the build is quite broken. So when I first playing, the gun would just shoot on its own. You couldn't control when it shot.
Right.
And you get a lot of artifacts and all the classic sort of people like buzzing around and going through walls and things.
Right.
And quite often you get the whole screen would flash white as if you're walking through a wall or clipping where you're not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think, because it's 128 players on the map, that's quite ambitious.
Yeah, it is.
When you think about that, it's 128 instances on one map. And so I think their servers were struggling. But I also understand it was an old 4-month-old build that's being used. And I think the actual game will be a different build. But I could see the fun in it. It was very, very addictive fun. Especially, I think, really, if you're playing with other people. I think if you're playing on your own, you probably find it'll sort of pale after a while.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed that. I think it's on both Xbox and on PlayStation 5. So it is cross-platform.
Okay.
I think if you're on Xbox, you get EA Play on Xbox.
Yes, that's right.
Don't
Yeah.
you? So if you could have played it yourself, Alex.
Okay.
It would have been free for you to play the beta.
Oh.
So I think a lot of people have tried it on both platforms, and it is cross-play as well.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So that's been my gaming activity for the last few weeks. However, things have changed recently with new gaming purchases. So tell me, Alex. Now, I'm looking at the notes here, and it looks like you've pre-ordered 2 things here.
Well, yes and no. So there's one that I'm definitely going to receive, which is the Playdate from Panic, which I believe you've pre-ordered as well.
Yes, it was a bit of a pain to pre-order, but yes,
it was, and they kind of I get it. They had payment issues for international customers, so. So we were patiently waiting at the time.
You and I both were,
yeah, that's right. And then it was just failing at the address stage, annoyingly, which is not something you'd expect. But it wasn't their fault. One of their third-party providers that handles that
it wasn't their fault,
just couldn't cope with the amount of load and kind of fell over a bit for international customers.
They had They had 20,000 to pre-order.
So
it's a finite amount.
The way that they worked is they said that the first 20,000 are expected to arrive in 2021, and that then there will be more coming in 2022. So they didn't want to close pre-orders, but they've just been pushing back the time that it's going to take. So I think at the moment they just have a vague 2022. Probably you might have like a 9-month or 12-month wait if you try to order now. But obviously, you know, if they can ramp up production a bit more, then they'll be able to do that. So and they can obviously see the
COVID
demand.
Didn't help.
No, it really didn't. It's kind of there's a podcast that talks about how they made it, and the company is very lucky in that they've you know, they've been a software company for a long time. Then they started making games and they really enjoyed that. And then they said, let's create this quirky hardware device. And they're in this lucky position where they can afford to do that. And then the COVID hit and they were like, right, this changes how we can do this. But even so, I think the end result will be quite quirky, and I'm quite looking forward to playing some of the indie games, which is good. So
It's a little yellow device, isn't it, with a hand crank?
That's it.
And a black and white screen.
It's kind of the screen is kind of Game Boy sized. So you have to think of it as you know, you really don't have a lot of space to work with, and it's also monochrome. So you know, you're not going to be getting, you know, you're not going to be gaming on it like you would a Switch. This is going to be something that you take with you and have, you know, a few minutes to spare while you're waiting for the bus or something, and you think, you know what,
it fits in your sort of top pocket and it's nice and light and quirky. And I think the screen is sort of super sharp and reflective, so it works really well in direct light, and it kind of reminds me of the Game & Watch games, but obviously at higher quality. Monochrome. Yes,
exactly. And I think part of...
And there's a whole kind of... I don't want to use the word hipster because that was a bad word, but it's a whole kind of charm behind how they're producing this. I mean, you can get like a little dock it sits onto with... Yeah. Is it with a radio or something in it? Or
yeah, I think they were going to have a radio or...
But it has a little like pen pot holder on the side of it as
well. Yes, that's right.
You can put 2 pens in and it comes with a Playdate pen. And such a lovely kind of charming idea. And it will sit on my desk because I'll probably get the dock as well at some point.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, the problem was with as you said, with the international pre-order system went down. So all the first 20,000 went to America.
Yes.
And I think Panic were quite upset about that, you know, for us. And so they've basically pushed, I think, the first orders and the second orders when they worked for us to both to 2022. Obviously, the first orders will get them first, but they're trying to make it fair.
Yeah.
And I think it gives them a bit more time to, you know, build the devices wherever they build them.
Yeah, and also I think that no one really expected that the supply issues would last as long as they have, and I think the reality is, and it's affecting everything now. A friend of mine was buying a car, and that whole purchase has completely changed now that they can't. They're not. Because now they don't have enough chips. They're literally sort of saying, well, if you want the car, you have to put it down, money down now, and you'll have to wait and see when it arrives. And you know, that's not a normal thing for most dealers. That's not how they sell cars. They sell cars by showing you the car and then saying, well, do you want this car, or do you want a new one to spec? And a lot of people will say, actually, that one's fine, I'll take that one. That whole model is kind of gone at the moment, and second-hand prices are through the roof. So you end up in this awkward situation where you want to buy a car, and they say, "Well, the new ones are cheaper, but you can't get them right now." So, but anyway, and so I don't think they expected this problem to last as long as it has, and so I think we'll probably all receive it early 2022, maybe January or February or something like that will start coming through.
I don't with the Playdate, because it's not a high power system. It's not all this whiz bang 4K goodness. I think the chips involved in it, I don't know what the chipset is, but I think they are much easier to get hold of. and lower powered.
Yeah. It's I think it's a custom ARM chip, but it's not like
it's almost like a Pi, isn't it?
Exactly like a Pi. Yeah, exactly like that. So
Arduino.
So it's not trying to compete with like mobiles or anything like that. But yeah, so it just looks really interesting as a solution, and I think I think they've done a good job of agreeing what it will do, and then sort of getting the indie game community to sort of embrace that. So I do think it's going to have quite an interesting life over the next couple of years. I think there's going to be some really interesting games that come out for it that you can't do anywhere. Yeah, they'll be delivered over Wi-Fi, and you won't be able to you won't be able to play those kind of games anywhere else, which is good. So.
I watch with bated breath how that develops. Obviously, there'll be a subscription for those games further on down the line because the first set come with the console, don't they? The first 24 games over time. I
think it's 12 or 24, and
yeah,
I think there's two. I think it's 2 a week over a 12-week period. So 24.
Yeah.
And yeah, so honestly, I think it's going to be quite interesting. But the other thing they did say is that if you build a game, there will be a method to buy the game. So to keep it. So they'll have to work. They're working that out at the moment,
sure.
And they know it's going to happen in software. So that's good. But yeah, no. So that sounds fascinating. Now, I'd really like to find out about your purchase before we go on to my next thing.
Okay. We're going to sort of amp up the power a little bit here.
Yeah.
And maybe end on a high. But so it arrived yesterday because as recording, I was recording the day after release day. I got myself a new Switch, the OLED Switch, and yeah, it's lovely. I'm just going to turn that off before it makes a noise. But yes, I mean it's very hard. I'm just showing Alex on the screen here, but the screen's blurring it out anyway. It's very hard to kind of portray across A, audio, and B, photographs how much better the screen is. It's a real delight. It's interesting how Nintendo kind of they're almost forcing people to play handheld rather than docked again.
That's right.
So the OLED Switch has this lovely OLED screen, and it is a bigger screen, and it feels more of a futuristic device.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the best screens of any device has been the PlayStation Vita.
Right.
And I still play on my PlayStation Vita. I use it to play all my Metal Gear Solid games. And I've always loved that screen because of the blacks, the darkness. When you've got a game with no detail, which is black, it looks amazing. And I've finally got that in this new Switch. It's like the quality of the Vita on the screen with the brilliant games on the device. And I really like the white Joy-Cons.
Great.
Again, I'm just showing Alex to get off and to see because it's blurred, but. And I really like the kickstand at the back because I did start playing my Vita.
Oh, yes.
So my Switch on a table when I first bought it because I do like just whacking it down. But this new kickstand, it works all the way across the back, and it means you can lay it down really easily. It doesn't fall over, and you can adjust it so it goes. You get a better angle because that, again, the problem with the previous one was, as you know, because you've got one, Alex. When the stand is up, it's a little bit too steep to play comfortably.
Yeah.
You have to kind of push it away from you. And they've really thought about I think the usability and the ergonomics of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have said as well, and pinch of salt here, Alex, they have said that they have addressed, or they've tried to address some of the issues with the Joy-Con drift.
Right, great.
So the Joy-Cons that come with it are exactly the same in terms of form and feel.
Mm-hmm.
But what they said is they have tried to address some of the issues and it shouldn't be as prevalent. However, they have also said wear and tear will still cause drift.
Right, I see.
Which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
You just don't see that in a lot of other controllers.
No.
Sometimes you do, but not. So, yes, and I've been playing a bit of Astral Chain, which I think you've completed, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm finding quite tricky to get my head around, but it looks amazing on the OLED screen.
Brilliant.
And the sound is really good as well. It's definitely louder. And, it's not a revolutionary jump. And when you play it docked mode, it's exactly the same as the old one. Mm-hmm. A couple of things with the setup. So Nintendo and its sort of DRM system So I have, before this, we now have 3 Switches in the house. Before this, I had my original Switch. I haven't tested battery life very much, but the battery is a lot better as well. So the original Switch, and we have a Switch Lite, which the kids use and share. And then obviously the original Switch we use docked as a family with the 4 Joy-Cons that I have. And I've set my children's Switch Lite to be my primary console so that they can play any digital games that I purchase.
Okay.
And if I play on my Switch, I have to be connected to the internet, and it just checks who I am so I can play as well.
I see.
That's great, but the problem we have now is I've now given my old Switch to my daughter, and my son has the Switch Lite. Because we don't have a third console, Nintendo don't allow that to happen. So my daughter can still play any game I bought downloaded on hers. My son can't play any of them. He can only play card games.
Right.
The games are put in with
with the SD card, the
SD card. So he's having to now play the games under my username, which sometimes affects my progress, because you can have as many consoles as you want on Switch as long as you're logged in as a primary user.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it just checks through the internet. You can only play one at a time. So if he plays Overwatch on his Switch under my name and I try and play it, it won't let me play it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you kind of manage your games. I can see why Nintendo are doing this, because obviously if 3 of us are playing the same game and haven't bought it, they're losing 2/3 of their trade, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it is a bit annoying. I wish there was some system. I mean, I pay for the family online system, and I wish there was some way you could tie the user accounts for a family to so that family, and a maximum of 4 to 5 people. And I think Nintendo will get a lot of love for that, and you'd find that probably people would impulse buy the smaller downloadable games more for that. I don't know how you feel about that.
The thing is, you think that should probably come as part of the family pack. So family array. So if you do the family online, then that's one of the perks, and that would make a lot of sense.
Which is what Apple does with its purchases.
Yeah, it would. I mean, lots of them are. Even Android do it now. Google do it now. They have the family library, and you can do the same. So and there's not a licensing problem for Nintendo. It's just they try really hard to not make things complicated, but they also try really hard not to give anything away. So they've obviously, the two are kind of competing a bit at the moment.
Well, there's a reason why they've got so much cash, isn't there? Yeah. It's just a bit frustrating. I now make it really. I mean, I've bought my son Game Builder Garage recently because he likes building his own games. I've now basically defaulted to buying the game cards.
Right, back to that game.
Yeah, because they can be swapped very easily from console to console without any issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm very, very happy with it. My wife, on the other hand, was a bit miffed with a third device in the house of the same ilk, but she'll come round to it. We played some Overcooked last night, Overcooked 2, and she was very happy with that.
Oh, that's nice.
But yes, no, I'm very happy with it, and it's nice because I do have the Hori Switch pads with split pads, which are like these sort of Xbox style consoles, the console controls you can attach to it. But I've gone back to playing it with the little ones because it's just a nice device to have, and it sort of fits in your pocket reasonably well. I think if you own the original Switch, this is a really good jump up because the battery life is so much better.
Yeah.
And the screen's better. I think if you bought the more recent one, perhaps this isn't an upgrade, and you might want to wait. Now, I know there are rumours of a 4K Switch, and Nintendo very, very come out saying, no, this is all nonsense.
They say that all the time, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, and I know there's someone I listened to a podcast, the One Life Left podcast, and there's a presenter on there that whenever he buys a Nintendo console, when they're saying there's no rumours of it, a week later the new one comes out. He's almost like a sort of minus canary for it.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's just bought an OLED Switch, so let's see what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised because Nintendo are quite cagey about these things. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Nintendo do some clever magicry with this current Switch and send out an update that makes it able to play 4K games.
I think they'll use upsampling, and I think what they'll do is they'll agree that they will only the device itself will only go up to this amount, and we know that we can do 1080p fairly comfortably. And I think what they'll do is they'll send probably 1440p to the TV, and then the TV will upsample that. But I think there's going to be some behind the scenes cleverry that is going to make it look like 4K without being a native 4K signal, because there's just not enough horsepower, and it's also not the fight that Nintendo wants to do.
No.
So they're not going to go and say, here's your 4K. Well, they will. They'll say, here is a Switch that plays 4K, and then they'll kind of go, it's a kind of 4K when people ask them why.
I don't know if anyone's done I don't know if iFixit have done a teardown of the new Switch yet. If they find any sort of secret little things inside it that might give us clues, I don't know. I mean, they might use DSS, but you'd need the right.
Yeah.
You'd need the right physical components for that to work, and if they tear it down and don't find them there, that kind of scotches that rumor. But wouldn't it be funny if we already own the 4K Switch and we don't know it? I don't know.
Maybe.
One thing I didn't mention actually is the dock, the new dock, which is a sort of rounder, and the back of it now pops out rather than flips down.
Okay.
Much prefer.
That's good.
But it does have this LAN connection now, Ethernet connection.
Nice.
And obviously, again, with Nintendo being Nintendo, you can't just take your card out of your old device with all your games. You know, I had a couple of 100 gigs of games on it. I've got 256 cards on it. You can't do that.
Oh,
so
how do you get it
so
there?
when you put it in your new device, it just formats the card. It says you can't use this.
No.
So I had to go through a whole process of, and there are systems on the devices. So if you've got both devices and you've signed into your Nintendo account on both devices,
right,
you can do a peer-to-peer Bluetooth transfer of all your saves.
Right. Okay.
And again, you can't just select them all and transfer them all. You have to do them all individually with about a 5 or 6 step button press for each one.
Okay.
So my family sat down and watched The Addams Family yesterday, and I sat upstairs literally for about an hour and a half, transferring all the saves over whilst watching stuff on my Mac.
And so you had to get another SD card that's big enough to cope with all of that. So you've now...
No, I just took the one out of my existing one.
Oh, okay.
So I took my SD card out of my existing Switch.
Yeah.
Put it in the new one, reformatted it,
right,
and then I had to re-download all my games.
Oh,
That's
I see.
the only way you could do it. There is another way you can do it. You can transfer everything, but it deletes your account from the previous Switch.
Right, I see.
So you can do a transfer of everything,
and then you switch the whole thing off.
I didn't want to delete my account from my previous Switch because then my kids couldn't play the games on it.
Yeah.
So again, you said earlier on about Nintendo kind of trying to keep things simple. It's not simple, but having downloaded all the new games, because I transferred the saves, everything works seamlessly, and I can go back into my games.
Good, that's important.
So, again, you're going to have to Google that information when you get your device, like I did. But, and I tested this, I started downloading them wirelessly, and it was taking ages. And quite often, I don't know if you found this when you've downloaded large games, sometimes you get a DNS error and it just drops, it doesn't download it, it stops. So I then went downstairs and unplugged the old dock, plugged in my new dock, plugged in an Ethernet connection, and sat it in the dock and left it going, and it downloaded all about 220 gig of games I've got on there in a couple of hours.
That's good.
I've got a good connection at home.
Yeah.
I did a test of speed on the Switch as well, and obviously you can have a massively good connection, and I've got about 450 megabits connection. There are some limits on some devices at how fast they can download. That's just down to the radio receiver and the Wi-Fi receiver in the device.
Yeah, that's right.
So it can manage up to about 30 downloading.
Okay, 30 megabit bytes
on Ethernet. So it was about 10 times slower than my connection, but it was good enough to download.
Okay, that's fair enough.
You'll notice this on certain devices that they can't cope. Like the Apple TV can only manage about 100 megabits connection.
Yes.
So, although I've got a lovely connection at home, the devices can only manage a fraction of that when they download.
Yeah,
these are things people aren't really aware of. So I was expecting my downloads to happen really quickly, and they didn't. But I left it going. Just left it there for a couple of hours.
That's good.
And it worked.
Yeah, no, the fastest. I mean, the Xbox is one of the few that isn't. The Xbox Series X isn't capped. So it literally depends on how quick the servers are. But I can normally get about 600 meg down, which is pretty impressive. But then, if you start playing a game, it throttles it, and I think that's probably the choices that Nintendo are probably doing. Is like, sure, we can go away and do this, and then maybe we'll allow you to play something. Although I don't know if Nintendo.
Well, I guess
'cause I don't think it's got
if you
the
can
horsepower for it.
Yeah, if you can download games at 600 megs from Nintendo, it's going to kill their service eventually, isn't it? If everyone's doing that, so they have to. I guess they have to cap it to manage stability more than anything else.
Maybe,
because one thing Nintendo are good at is polish.
Yes.
You just don't get a Nintendo game with bugs.
no, that's true. It doesn't.
So
It's not released
it's
if
all
it's
part of it.
like that.
Yeah. Now, we've gone from the Playdate with its sort of low-res indie screen
Yeah.
to the Switch with its almost 4K screen and its almost high-end screen to something else that I'm not sure yet, Alex. Have you pre-ordered this?
So, yes, and no. So, when you pre-order, it's a £5.
Sorry, hold on. We better tell everyone what you pre-ordered.
So this is a Steam Deck,
Yep.
done by Valve.
It's the Valve handheld.
Yeah. And so the thing is, what attracted me is and this is partly is because the way they want it to work is they don't want to take all your money straight away because they haven't made this yet. So what you're doing is essentially you're putting your name down in a queue, and when your name comes up, then you'll be able to purchase it. So for now, I think it was just a £5, and I was like, yeah, why not? And because it's fine, I can always get it back later. It doesn't matter. And this is kind of the best way to describe it is it's like a Switch on steroids, but it plays full-blown PC games, and so that's quite appealing. Although it's not like the Switch has got like the Joy-Cons that can be removed and stuff like that. This is not that kind of thing. This is literally a massive block with a big screen. There's controllers on either side. It's got touch screen elements, and it's really Steam basically saying, here's what you could do to make your PC game library portable, which is really and so that's appealing to me in a way, because not necessarily because I've got a massive PC games library. I don't particularly, but the idea that it's got a bit more oomph and is less restrictive than the Nintendo was quite appealing. And I think the way that they've got it is obviously they're using a new AMD processor that's got a built-in graphics component to it. So you're using essentially onboard graphics rather than like in the PC world. In a PC world, you'd normally think about it as, I've got my NVIDIA RTX card or an AMD card. And this is that is not that level of gaming. It's look at what we can do with just the onboard graphics. And so they've gone with AMD, and so the graphics that they're using is the chipset they're using is similar to what they use in the Xbox Series X, but obviously it's very scaled down because it doesn't have the same thermal and power availability. So you're not actually getting that level of power. You're getting something that's a lot closer to something like a Switch, but it can play any game, any PC game, rather than just specific Nintendo
games. But don't forget, you've got a smaller screen, so
yes,
you're balancing the capabilities down to a smaller resolution anyway.
Yeah, what they've said is like it will play 720p at 60 frames per second, which is not bad at all for a screen, and it's the type of game that you'll be able to play on it, which will be impressive because you won't be limited. You'll be able to say, hey, I want to play, I don't know,
Half-Life,
Half-Life, or Doom, or sort of some competitive games, and you'll be able to do that on the deck without having to make huge compromises. So it is really appealing. It starts at £350, but the version that most people will want is kind of 500. Is kind of the level of it, and the fact that you could then, particularly if you've got a library as well, you could
you've already got games there then, haven't you?
Yeah, so like if you want to play Fallen Order, for example, this is a way to playing Fallen Order as you go out and about would be really cool. So Yeah, so it is really appealing. I think the challenge for me is not necessarily the hardware or the software. It's more going to be, do I really need this? And given that I already have a Switch and I'm not using it at the moment very much because I'm not going out and about work-wise, is it probably better for me to just focus on sort of at-home console gaming rather than having something I can take with me?
I think for us it's the choice, though, isn't it, Alex? It's nice just to be able to have this for this and this. And I think, for us, of our advanced age and financial status, we can afford to do that. Yes. There are some people who this might be their only device, but it's a brilliant device to have.
Yes. Well, that's the other part of it that's quite impressive, is that you could use this docked as a PC. Which, you
can run Windows on it, can't you?
You can, but it runs a Linux version, Linux operating system as standard.
Right.
But you can double dual boot it to Windows if you choose to. And I think the thing is, realistically, the type of people that will dock it will probably be the ones that only need to use things in a web browser anyway. In which case, there's no point having Windows. You might as well just say where you are. It'll be no different than having a Chromebook from a usability point of view. So it's a really intriguing device, and I think that's what's kind of tempting me at the moment. But there is a part of me, like a little conscience on my shoulder, probably my wife actually saying,
I was going to say,
saying you don't need this.
Does this little conscience have red hair?
She might do, yeah.
I remember the release of the Steam Deck. I was actually on a gentleman's weekend away by the beach in a little chalet with very little power and very, very bad 3G. And I remember having quite a few pints next to our barbecue on the beach and then going for a quick constitutional in the toilet and thinking, oh no, I'll order a Steam Deck on my phone on very poor 3G.
Right.
And I successfully pre-ordered a Steam Deck.
Oh, wow.
The high one, the 700 quid one.
Oh, right.
6991. And then waking up the next morning and seeing the email confirmation from Valve and also all the tweets of people saying how hard it was to pre-order. And I thought how hilarious that I could do it a bit 1 over the 8 with a phone with dodgy 3G out on the coast.
And you managed to do it anyway.
Also had buyer's guilt and then very, very quickly cancelled my pre-order because that would be divorce. But I think, again, it's another device that I look forward to seeing how it develops. I mean, for instance, they could do, I'm thinking science fiction here, but what if Valve release their own monitor, which has its own built-in upscaling kit? So when you dock your device into it, it upscales it for you.
Right.
Or much like the external box for the PlayStation VR, which handles the dual frame processing in both your eyes. Perhaps they could do something in a monitor like VSync, but for the Valve Deck, it's called the Steam Deck. Sorry.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see how it goes. Now, also, if you do get it, and I know you always talk you out of it, if you do get it, I'd be interested to see how it works and see what sort of quality especially if you play like Doom, quite an intense, graphically intensive, quick, lots of particles, lots of explosions sort of game on the device. But also, it'll be interesting to see how the battery lasts as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think battery life is going to be a big challenge for it. I mean, there are other like PC equivalents of this that are being made by Chinese manufacturers before. And basically the gist of it is, if you're playing a AAA game at top settings, you get an hour if you're lucky.
Right.
I think if they're good, they might be able to get a couple of hours out of it. I think what's more interesting to me, and this is I think this might open up the PC gaming sort of ecosystem a bit more than it is now, because currently, everything is Windows based. And one of the interesting things about this is Valve have doubled down on the Linux version, and they basically said emulation is so good now that we can run a Windows game in Linux and with a little bit of tweak from the developers, you won't know, and it won't be, and I think that's something that's quite interesting, because I think if this does well, it means that you may end up with Steam looking at this and saying, hey, the Steam PCs that we tried to do, well,
the Steam boxes.
Yeah, Steam boxes. Well, you know what? We can always revisit them and give them capabilities to do 4K, and then they're back again. But the thing is, now they have the ecosystem and the software support that they didn't have before. So it could be really interesting. It might be like they have another bite of creating their own
console. Market, really.
Probably a bit late, really, because I think Microsoft Play is, it's not about the hardware. You can play whatever game you like, and I think they're gonna, Valve could do that, but they're kind of more, we'll give you it wherever you are. So I think maybe that play is a little bit late, but I do think that in the portable world, there's definitely opportunity for them.
It's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for portable devices. Obviously, as we move through time and technology gets better, we're going to see more of this portability being the way forward. But I have a lot of portable devices historically in my house now, and I think there's probably an upper limit. But no, it's very exciting. So looking forward, we have a long list here, Alex. We might have to praise you a little bit, but looking forward, what are you looking forward to in terms of gaming coming up? Future games.
So I've got a few here. One of the ones I'm quite looking forward to at the moment is Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's quite an interesting. I think it was probably action.
Is it a single player narrative, or is it one of these games?
It's single player.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be quite fun. So there's missions to go on. You get the sound, the soundtrack that you used to from Guardians of the Galaxy films. You've got, so and you've got the quips between the characters. It looks very similar to the recent Avengers game, which has just come out on Game Pass. But the thing is, Avengers game just didn't really have much heart to it, and I think also the gameplay wasn't particularly interesting. Whereas I think Guardians of the Galaxy, even if the gameplay is so-so, I think that the characters and the quips and the music will probably pull it through anyway, because people will enjoy playing that. And so I think it's more compelling than Avengers was. I'm just not sure whether it's worth 70 quid or 60 quid that they're charging.
So is it the same developer? I know Eidos Montreal are making the new Galaxy game.
Yes.
They also make the Avengers game. Because that could be, just having a different studio do it could make all the difference, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Avengers was Crystal Dynamics.
Square Enix, wasn't it? Square Enix did the Avengers game.
No. So Crystal Dynamics did Avengers, and Square is doing Marvel, and I think probably they're doing a better job, to be fair. But they're arguably quite similar games. It's just that Avengers is probably less story led. And I think
they wanted to push it out like Destiny, like a game
exactly.
Game,
and I just don't think that worked. I think
I think the problem you have with that sort of game is, of course, as superheroes, you want to be Hulk. You don't want to be you can't have 4 Hulks in one game. And whereas it works in games like Destiny and other games because they're all individual and you can tailor your own look.
Yes,
it's a bit tricky with superheroes. So I think going down the single player narrative route is probably going to make it more successful.
It's the same reason that there's a new DC Batman game coming out, and it's
that Knights of Gotham.
That's the one, and that works because you're not all playing Batman, and it's very similar to that. I think for the Guardians, there's such a range of characters there. So I think people will be very broad. Characters. Yeah. So I think that will work. I think that will work quite nicely. So that's one of them. Forza Horizon 5 is coming out on Xbox.
Now I'm trying to remember because there's the current Forza. They alternate between styles, don't they? One's like the open world, one's the more racy one. Is that right? Or is this more like...
Yeah, so this is the open world one.
Yeah.
And so this is less about the driving mechanics and more about just having fun with your mates. And online play is a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, for me, the Forza Horizon is just enjoyable fun.
It's the gold standard, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's on Game Pass as well, so that's kind of it helps justify Game Pass for me. And they're in Mexico this year. The fact is, it's not that long since they brought out the UK version.
No, it's a great game, that.
So, which is really good. I still play that occasionally.
Me too.
I think the Mexico version's bigger. The environments are also more diverse. So I do think it's going to be more interesting to play.
Yeah.
So so I'm totally looking forward to that. The other ones I have are longer term. So we've got Forbidden West on the PlayStation. Yeah. And I am looking forward to that. So, but I'm also in two minds as to whether to keep my PlayStation 5. I love my PlayStation 5, but I play it for one or two games, and I'm not sure that that's enough of a reason to justify keeping it. But I don't want to sell it. But part of me wants to go. So I mean,
you might be able to sell it at a profit and buy yourself the high-end Steam Deck. That's the other option.
This is true. Yeah, this is very true. Also, I've got to a point where my TV area is getting really cluttered at the moment, and that PlayStation 5 is massive. It's
big,
really big. So I don't know. I'm in two minds about that. The other thing is,
I'm sure you'll find lots of takers, Alex, for it. To be fair.
Yes. Oh yeah. Does anyone want a PS5? I think there'll be
$2,000.
They'll be messaging me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to make too much money out of it, but like I could sell it for £600. That seems fair. Anyway, the other one I'm looking for is longer term, which is Starfield. I think Starfield will be good. That's an Xbox exclusive.
Is that a Bethesda game?
Yeah,
it is.
So that's coming out. The other one is the Outer Limits 2, which is
I never finished Outer Limits. I enjoyed it though.
Really good. And there's also the DLC Murder on Gorgon, which is also quite good. Again, like I think the style, they just nailed the style when they did it, and I think that's why people are like, well, can you do that again? And they're like, well, we want to do something different. No, don't change anything. Just give me new environments and new quips. You don't have to do anything more to it. The game is fine. It's not. It's a bit of a grindy game. Like once you get to a certain point, you end up realizing it's not really very much different. But you don't really care because it's enjoyable enough killing all of the beasties and stuff. And you go around trying to solve like a mystery or something. So that keeps it interesting enough. So
awesome. I've got some games down here, but I've also quite looking forward to the stage when Microsoft have managed to get Game Pass, xCloud, available to play on my Xbox One X, but at Series X quality.
Oh, okay, interesting.
That I think that's their aim. Their aim is to get, because they're now using Xbox Series X devices as their cloud streamers.
Okay.
But I don't know if yet they can stream at that sort of quality. Now, I could plug my Xbox One back in, because I generally play my Xbox games on my Mac through xCloud at the moment, with a device, like a controller attached to it. PlayStation One, ironically. And I quite like to go back to using it rather than on my... I still think Safari doesn't cope very well with xCloud.
Right.
Using it on a device that their main aim is to stream it on PC and Xbox, whatever Xbox you've got.
Yes, yeah.
Because that then means I don't have to buy a Series X and I can just play those games.
Yeah,
I think that's a big dream. I think it's not yet achievable, with all with all the parameters that could go wrong with that. But that'll be really good. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to Chorus, which is another Xbox game. Which the trailer looks really interesting. It's a space flight combat shooter.
Oh, okay.
With a really cool narrative. And it looked a bit like a mixture of Elite and Star Wars and Destiny. It looks really cool.
Oh,
really
nice.
kind of stylized. I'm very much looking forward to Sifu, not Situ, Sifu, which is another kung fu game from the people who made Absolver, which I actually bought and really enjoyed because of its focus on the nearest you can get to in a video game of actually a really detailed, quite tricky, trainable fighting system that you can design your own fighting styles and so on, which I really liked in Absolver. And I'm wondering if Sifu is going to be similar in that respect. I like this interesting dynamic where you get older as you get more. As you get older, as you get more damage, your body looks older.
Right, I see.
In the game, and so you're weaker. Yes, I'm looking forward to Horizon Forbidden West as well. It'll be an instant buy for me. And yes, any space game like Starfield, I'll want to play. Holding out big time for God of War Ragnarok. I love the God of War games, and again, that might be a reason for you to keep hold of your PS5. Have you played the previous one?
No, not yet.
The most recent God of War.
No,
it's amazing. It's an amazing game. It's worth playing if you can get hold of it. I think it's on. It may even be on the the PlayStation.
On the back catalogue. Yeah,
Plus.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus.
I might have to give that a go. Download.
Yeah, it's really good. So if you still want to play something before you sell it, that's a good one. The God of War game. And finally, I'm quite interested by Stray, which is this game where you're a cat running around this robot world.
Okay.
As always, Alex, it's time, isn't it, to play all these?
It is time, yeah, absolutely.
I generally play a lot of my games during my holidays when I'm not teaching. But there's so much to look forward to. It's brilliant. So I think we've talked quite a long time. I think we need to round it up there.
Yeah.
And go through the usual moves of knowing who we are. So I'm at John Prior Evans on Twitter. Alex is
at Alex Hansford.
And then you can also find us at Play Pause Turn on Twitter. Keep an eye out over the next couple of weeks because I think, again, it's hard to know when you're listening to this, but it may have already happened. But we're going to be or have done original June watch along. We might do some more of those over time. But keep an eye on our Twitter feed and how we coped with that, the technology, and how we enjoyed watching it. You can also find us at playpauseturn.show on the internet if you listen to your podcast through an internet page, which is weird, but there you go. Anything else to add, Alex?
No, I think apart from that, I think Bond is coming on soon. So we'll probably have a Bond podcast as well. So.
Oh yes, we'll get Bobby on for that for the clothes aspect as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. This has been Play Pause Turn, and thank you for listening.